Welcome to the Real Life Artist Podcast. This is the show where we discuss the challenges that come with being an artist, as well as ways you can overcome those challenges through practical applications, shared experiences, and general discussion. My name is Luke, and I'm your host. Now, this is the first episode. I'm excited. I've wanted to start this podcast for a minute. I've been preparing for a little while, and so I feel like I'm finally at that point where I'm ready to get this started strong, and I appreciate you for tuning in. So I sort of wanted to talk about the outline and the goal of this show, as well as some things we'll be going over and why I decided to start this show, and then we will get into the main topic, which has to deal with habits. So some of the things that we talk about in the show have to do with mental health and the mindset of being a musician, producer, composer. Now, if you aren't a musician, producer, composer, etc., that's fine. This is just a community of creatives where we talk about that sort of thing, what I call real life. You know, the mental health battles, the financial battles, relationship battles, etc. And so because I'm a musician, naturally it has that musical slant to it, but all are welcome, all creative disciplines and trades. This is a community. So we're here to support each other. I'm here to support you all. And if you look in the show notes, you can see ways that you can reach out to me for things that you're going through, experiences that you want to share, ideas for future episodes you would like to discuss, things of that nature. Feel free to check it out. So, why did I decide to start this show? Well, I feel there's a lot of really good content and information out there that has to deal with becoming better at your discipline, your trade, your craft. If you are a music maker, that would be how to make better songs and beats and structure and stuff, which is awesome. And then there's how to monetize that, the business side of things. But to me, I felt there was a very large, significant gap. And that is sort of what I define as real life, or, you know, these mindset challenges and issues that I just don't feel like are addressed and talked about enough in the music and creative space in general. So that is what we cover in this show. Now, if you're coming in from a long week, thank you. You're probably tired. If you are just starting your week, I think this will be a really good, insightful start to your week. So we are talking about habits and how habits, if you have too many bad habits, not enough good habits, can sort of make you a little depressed. And I do know that it can sound harsh, but your habits really can make you depressed. They can get you in this loop or cycle of you don't know what you're doing, or you want to do something, you know what you want to do, but you're just not able to because your habits aren't allowing for that. So, for example, you know, if you have a day job and you're trying to become a full-time music producer, composer, you tell yourself immediately when you get home from your day job, you're going to work on music. But then as soon as you get home, you spend an hour watching YouTube and then nothing gets done. And then the next thing you know, you have to move on to the next thing in your day. And you didn't get to do it that day. And that happens again and again and again and again, to the point where it's really difficult to keep focus on what you're ultimately trying to do. So this is really rough, so I'm going to cover some tactics and just general discussion about this, on ways that you can handle this, what mindset you should sort of approach it with. And I've been going through, I actually fully read, and I'm doing another read through because I really enjoyed it, of Atomic Habits by James Clear. This is a book I really wish I would have found a while ago, but you know, better to start today than never. So that's a lot of these points will come from that book. So I credit James Clear for a lot of the points made here. But this sort of has a twist that is adapted for creatives, music producers, composers, etc. So I first wanted to talk about, you know, sort of what habits are and the benefits of habits as it can pertain to our craft and how it can be useful. Well, habits are just sort of small things that you do without thinking about it. Maybe you get up in the morning and you just brush your teeth and your hair and you don't even think about it. That's just sort of the first thing you do in the morning. So that would be a habit. There are good habits, neutral habits, and of course bad habits. Good ones are what get you closer to your goal. Neutral, it doesn't really matter. Like turning your alarm off is just a neutral habit. And then bad habits would be things that sort of slow you down, get you away from your goal. So, for example, if you're trying to be in better shape and you're really not eating the best, then all those bad eating habits, those are bad habits. Now, when it comes to habits, I think it's really important to understand that there's a tipping point at which they help, because a habit is a small daily effort to help you toward your eventual goal. Now, I think the reason it's really easy to sort of play habits off as like this is not something that I want or need is we kind of fall into these mindsets where number one, we either tell ourselves, I don't want to do habits because I don't want to, be like boxed in or pigeonhole myself into a life where I don't feel free. Where on the contrary, if you have really good habits, you're a lot more free. If you have good financial habits, good saving habits, you can feel free to buy something really whenever you want, as long as it's within your budget and you're smart with how you do it. So you're not always behind and in debt, and you're financially free. So that's kind of one benefit. And then maybe the other thing we tell ourselves is that it'll get boring. Trust me, when you are reaching your goal step by step every day, it does not get boring. It just motivates you to go even stronger. I'm speaking from experience here. And the last thing I want to talk about is that there is a tipping point for habits at which the light just flips, the switch goes off, and you're like, wow, there is a huge difference here. James Clear in his book uses an example of ice that's on a table. Just imagine a little cube of ice on a table, and you're in the room, and it's maybe 26 degrees Fahrenheit, so you can see your breath, and the ice is not melting. It's just sitting there because it's below freezing. Now, if you do your little daily habits every day, he sort of compares that to a temperature increase. So you do a habit, now it's 27. Nothing happens. No noticeable change. You do it again, now it's 28. Still no noticeable change on that cube of ice. 29, nothing, and so on until it gets to 32. Now, it's the same increase from 31 to 32. Now, though, the ice is going to start to slowly melt. Then from 32 to 33, it's going to melt even faster, and 33 to 34. But that tipping point between 31 and 32, it's the same increment as it has always been. But this time, a massive breakthrough happens. And that's the interesting and amazing power of habits and these small changes. They really get you toward that. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, I'm not here to just reprimand you about bad habits that you may have, or just to make you feel bad, but I want to talk about habits. And I want to talk about what James Clear defines as the 4 laws of habit change. Now, here are the 4 laws to developing good habits if you want to build a good habit. Make it, and by the way, when I say it, we're talking about the habit. Make it obvious. So if you are trying to eat healthier, maybe you could, instead of putting like fruit or vegetables like far away in a place, like in the bottom of your fridge or the top of your pantry, somewhere you're never going to look, out of sight, out of mind. Make the habit obvious. Put, a bowl of apples in your living room, or if you want to drink more water, put a bottle of water inside every room. If you want to practice guitar, put the guitar in the middle of your living room, not on some back shelf or in the garage in a room that you never go into. If you want to make a habit of reading more and educating yourself, maybe put a book on your pillow as soon as you wake up. So when you go to bed at night, it's right there waiting for you. It's really obvious because you need your pillow to sleep. So that's the make it obvious. Make your habit obvious, number 1. Number 2 is make it attractive. So if you want to eat more vegetables or more fruits, Make it vegetables and fruits that you actually enjoy eating, not something that you wouldn't enjoy, because then that's not really attractive. It's not something you're even remotely interested in. If you want to read more and educate yourself more, read articles and books that you enjoy reading and you know will be helpful for you. So that's 2, make it attractive. 3, make it, the habit, easy. Make it easy. So if you're just starting an exercise habit, don't start with sessions that are 2 hours long and really intense, every day when you're just starting. That's just not going to be feasible. Now, there's not an exact amount, like going back to the workout example of a time that would be perfect. It's different per person, but maybe start very small, like just 10 minutes of exercise if you haven't done it for a while or you're just starting off again. Or if you want to do something like creative writing, just do it for like 5 or 10 minutes a day, but do it every single day. That way you can actually do it, because all too often it's really easy to say like, I'm going to do this habit or I have this goal, but it's really not achievable. It's really not possible. Make it easy, something you can actually do. Just something small. And the interesting thing about making things easy is usually when you get started, you tell yourself 5 minutes of creative writing, but then you start doing 10 minutes and 15 because you're like, well, I'm really into this now, actually. At first, I didn't even want to start, but I just started, and now I don't want to stop. And the 4th law or rule is make it satisfying. Make the habit satisfying. Give yourself a reward or something that is satisfying for doing your habit. So for example, if you wanted to save up for something, right? You have this like piece of musical gear that you really want to get, or camera gear or something, but you're trying to start a habit of working out. Make it so every time you work out, you deposit a few dollars into an account that store that piece of gear. So you're rewarding yourself for working out, and it's a saving up for that piece of gear that you really want. And this is a reward for your good habit. So here's the thing though, just make sure the reward for your habit is not contradictory to what you're actually trying to do. So for example, if you're trying to eat healthier, don't make your reward for eating healthier a bowl of ice cream. That's just going to be contradictory. And what I will say, so again, to summarize, here are the 4 rules for habit change. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. I have implemented these and already have seen dramatic changes to my habits. And one of those habits is starting this podcast. So some of the habits that I do daily would include practice Spanish for 10 minutes, exercise for 10 minutes, practice piano for 10 minutes, creative writing for 5 minutes, podcast writing for 5 minutes, and there are a lot more. And these seem so small. They seem really small. But the interesting part is usually I start the habit and I say, oh, well, I'm already outside exercising. Let me just continue for another 20 minutes because it's nice outside. Or, well, I'm already practicing piano, so let me just improvise for fun now. These habits have just made such a big impact on my daily habits and skills. It's crazy, and I'm just sort of starting to get started with these whole concepts. So the question is, though, why are bad habits so easy to do and good ones are so difficult? Well, the answer is, for one, bad habits are rewarding in the moment, even though we know they're very penalizing and very bad in the long run. If you eat sweets all the time, they're bad for you in the long run, but the thing is, you enjoy the sweetness in the short term. And we as humans just sort of we really like that short-term sort of buzz, the short-term high that you get from that. The same would go with like a bad habit for money. If you can't afford something that's very expensive but you really want it, you'll set up some sort of payment plan or put it on credit so you can have it now and pay for it later. But the thing is, if you do this too much, you're going to be in like too much debt to keep up with. You won't be able to keep up with your bills. But the thing is, again, it's that short term, like give this to me now that we really want, that's sort of challenging. This is why bad habits are easy and good habits are difficult. We don't like the long-term payout. We like the short-term sort of buzz that we get for bad habits. The solution is essentially that fourth law that I was telling you about, the make it satisfying. So if you make your good habits satisfying, you're more likely to repeat them. And we talked about, saving up for a piece of gear, and it could be the same for like an electronic. Every time you do a good habit, you reward yourself by putting away $20 in the bank account that would be for that electronic. So that's sort of how you break the bad habits, form good ones. Another really good point that James Clear made is if you invert the 4 laws, that's how you will break habits. So if you do the 4 laws, the make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying, that's how you form good habits. To break bad ones, you invert it. So instead of make it obvious, it would be make it hidden, make it not obvious. 2 would be, instead of make it attractive, it'd be make it unattractive. 3, instead of make it easy, make it difficult. And then 4, instead of make it satisfying, make it penalizing. And to make things penalizing, he sort of talks about social contracts. Like, you could give your significant other or a family member or a close friend a social contract that basically says like, hey, if I break this habit, if I don't make a song every week, I owe you like $50 or $100, and it, just something really penalizing for not doing a habit. So that really is going to motivate you if it's penalizing to do a bad habit or to not do a good habit. And lastly, I just wanted to talk about the psychology of habits. These are heavily based off of, again, James Clear book, Atomic Habits, which I highly, highly recommend. I don't have the time in this episode to cover everything, so I highly recommend you go grab that book. We may touch on more of this later. But the thesis is, what we believe about ourselves, and this is the psychology part, directly affects what we do. I'm going to say that again. What we believe about ourselves directly affects what we do. If you have a problem going to bed late every night and you tell yourself, well, I stay up late because I'm a night owl, then that's the issue. You tell yourself that you're a night owl. So then you genuinely believe it, and you follow the stigmas attached to that group. But if you're going to bed late, and you're trying to address that issue, and instead you tell yourself, well, I need to go to bed soon because I'm an early bird. Now you're kind of flipping everything on its head. That's going to reinforce the idea that you are somebody who wakes up earlier and somebody who has a better sleep schedule. And even if you haven't lived this way all your life or for years or whatever, and you want to start to live that way now, changing the psychology about what you believe about yourself is going to do that. Because if you're the kind of person who tells people, well, I'm sort of a hobbyist musician or I'm a hobbyist photographer, then your actions will reflect that. You're not really going to take the business seriously. You're really not going to try to get calls or clients or pitch your music. So the psychology is really important behind that. So let's wrap this up with a quick summary. And that's going to be all for this episode. So essentially, bad habits can get you in this loop where you're depressed. So that's why it's important to have a plan to form good habits. And that plan can be summarized with these 4 laws of habit change. Make your habit obvious, meaning you literally can't miss it, so it's in front of your face, hanging on the door or the wall or something. Make the habit attractive, something that you actually really want to do and that you would enjoy doing. Make it easy, something that's not too difficult, something you can actually do on a daily basis, and make the habit satisfying. A good habit will have a good reward attached to it so that you enjoy doing that good habit. And then the last thing that we just talked about was make sure you're really getting the mindset about who you are and what it is that you do straight. If you tell yourself you're a hobbyist, your work ethic may reflect that if you aren't careful. Even if you feel like you're not a full-time composer, a full-time videographer, just tell people that you are. Tell yourself at least that you are. And that's really going to help you get there. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. I really hope this was super insightful. If you have any additional comments or questions, or you want to continue this topic, just go to the show notes. You can find ways to contact me, and we can talk about that further. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, as it's super helpful. And I really enjoy your time, or I really appreciate your time, excuse me. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Take care.